Okay, to begin, to just try to understand where this class is coming from. When I was in Kollel not so long ago, with the guys who were part of my Kollel, there was a debate on our Telegram chat. There was a lot of people who were coming to the rabbis in the Kollel, young rabbis, and asking them and telling them about certain rabbis that they were listening to. And these rabbis that they were listening to, they said that those people were the ones who helped them realize that Hashem exists. And they were the people who got them, so to speak, to begin their process of teshuvah. But at the same time, these are people, these are figures, these are rabbis, these are mashpiyas who, for those who are clear-headed, for those who are more educated, for those who are fortunate, know that it's a very limited amount of good that can come from those places. And in fact, there's actually much more damage that can come than from the potential good. So the debate and the question was, should we as the young rabbis in the community let people know when they tell us about them and they say, should we be listening to them? And they tell us the whole background, should we encourage them or should we discourage them? Listening to those rabbis. These rabbis that they have, so to speak, started the process of helping them connect to something deeper than just my physical life, to start looking and searching for spirituality, to start to want to get close to Hashem. But then ultimately, because the product that they're giving out might not be Chalav Yisrael, right? It's not the highest level of kashrut. So as a result of that, they're either just going to poop out, meaning it's going to end at some point, their inspiration, or that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, which is a much more common scenario, is they end up experiencing retardation. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in the actual way that the dictionary speaks about before we started using it as a pun to offend people. To be retarded, I don't know how this class got this way, means that there's a regression of progress. A person can no longer make progress because his progress is being retarded, meaning the ability to grow is slowing down. I'm not able to continually grow. That process is now going into a path of regression. I'm moving backwards now. Or I'm hitting a bump that I can't get past because of this. Most of the people in my kollel said that we should tell them, if this is helping you right now, so then listen to it right now. And then whenever you get to the next stage in your life and you realize like you've capped out, so to speak, in this area, so then you'll just move on and listen to somebody else, learn from somebody else. Seemingly a nice answer, right? It's a good answer. So as is often the case, despite my lack of formal education in the Jewish world, and despite my lack of experience in the religious world, I felt differently. And I said that I don't know that you should go out and tell people not to listen to them. But if somebody actually comes to you and asks you, should I listen to them? And you know that there are possible negative repercussions that can come from it, I said that I believe it's a chiyuv that you tell them not to, that you would suggest not to. I didn't get a lot of positive feedback from this, but I felt very strongly about it. Why am I telling you all of this? Because even though that was a couple of years ago, I want to show you why I felt that way. And I think with this lesson, you're going to have a lot of understanding about what type of rabbi do I want to be connected to? What type of teacher do I want to be learning from? What type of shefa, what type of da'at, what type of consciousness am I trying to internalize and live with in my life? Because even though we live in a world that I go into a grocery store and I can have whatever I want, whenever I want, and seemingly on paper, if I have Jiffy's or I have Skippy's peanut butter, who really cares? It's all, you could fill in the rest. Yeah, peanut butter. Very good. That's why I wasn't going to go there. It's all peanut butter. However, there was only one thing that Rabbi Nachman was scared of. Now, this should tell you something, by the way. The person that he is Emunah Shlema, his whole entire essence and being is bound up with what the Reshit Chochmah says that in the beginning, what is real Yira? What is real Emunah? To know that Hashem, this comes from the Zohar, that He is the cause of all causes. That means that nothing takes place in this world as a cause unless there is a cause before that cause. And that cause is Hashem. Meaning that even though on paper what you see looks like it's just life taking place, people, places, circumstances, events, conversations, in truth, there is a cause to all of those causes. It's called Hashem. And at the same time, Rabbi Nachman says that there's one thing he was very concerned about. We're going to call them false leaders. False leaders. Now, it's interesting. Why? Wouldn't you think I'd be most concerned about anti-Semitism? Shouldn't I be concerned about the people who they hate the Jewish people, they want to kill us? Shouldn't I be concerned about financial difficulties and trials and tribulations with the tanking of the economy? I'm living in Chutz La'aretz, and all types of different practical fears that we should have. And yet Rabbi Nachman's biggest concern was nothing having to do with the non-Jewish world, but only having to do with the Jewish world, and not the same fears that most people have about the regular Stam Jew doing whatever it is he was doing. Rabbi Nachman wasn't concerned about that. Rabbi Nachman was concerned about the one who came in front of a camera like me, who dressed up in a tie and a suit like me, puts on a hat, puts on his beard in the morning from the dollar store, and starts speaking. And everybody's sitting and listening. Now we think it's just like peanut butter, right? Oh, you guys hear about this shiur? I'll check it out. You guys hear about this shiur? It's fire. I'll check it out. You hear about this guy? He had a debate with this person. It was crazy. He laid him to waste. You got to come check it out. And you go, and we absorb information. I want to show you how deep your thought is. Rav Nachman and Rav Natan brings it down in Sichot Aran, that the higher up you go in the physical body, the further it can reach. Rabbi Nachman says, if you take your foot and you kick something, what can go higher? If you kick it or if you throw it up in the air? Throw it up in the air, Rabbi Nachman says. Now, Rabbi Nachman says, what's further? What you threw up in the air or how loud you can say something? How loud you can say something. What about what you hear? Can you hear something as far or further than you can speak?
100%.
Yeah, you can hear gun bullets from very, very, very far away. Very far away. You can hear an airplane from many, 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 many miles away. Okay? You can't talk that far though. They're not going to hear you in the airplane, but you hear the airplane. What about sight? You could see to the moon. You could see the stars. So you could see further than you can hear. Is there anything higher than your eyes in your body? Is there anything higher than your eyes in your body? Your mind. So what does that mean? It said that Adam Arishon, the first man, was able to see from one end of the world to the other through his mind's eye. He could see all of existence through his mind. Okay? So how powerful is the Jewish mind, the human mind? There's no limits. Now, lest we think we're just taking in mental peanut butter, and it doesn't matter what brand we try, the truth is, if a mind is possible, that Rabbi Nachman says that if he thinks a positive thought, he creates a new universe. He creates a new world through that thought. Every thought is giving birth to reality. What's influencing your thoughts? What you learn, whether it's on TV, whether it's on social media, whether it's on Yahoo News, wherever you're listening to anything, it's becoming a thought in your mind. The Hasidic masters are coming to tell us your mind is not hefker. Your mind is not some possession which has no owner. It's not a free-for-all. You need to guard your mind, Rabbi Nachman says, very, very much. Me'od, me'od, Rabbi Nachman says. Because your mind is the space in which all of your reality will take place from, will be created from, will be experienced from, all through your mind. So we need to take it more seriously what enters there than even what you eat, than even who you engage with, what enters the mind. And there's nothing that enters the mind more than the teacher's teachings, those people that you're learning from. Okay, we're on the same page. Now, Pesach is coming up. Let's look at Pesach for a second. We say this many, many times, but it's worth repeating again. Hashem said to the Jewish people, nobody else is going to redeem you except for me. I'm your redeemer. But we find, to the contrary of that Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu in Shemot Rabbah, it's explained, he told him, you're the only one who can save the Jewish people. And no one else is capable except for you. And this is the deeper reason why when Moshe refused, Hashem wouldn't budge, because there was no one else capable of doing it. Okay? So we have a question. Is Hashem saving us or is Moshe saving us? Both. Okay. Now we're going to add to it. It's very clear from almost every single authority in the Torah, whether it's the Rambam in Halakha, whether it's the Zohar HaKadosh, whether it is the Arizal, whether it's Rabbi Nachman Likutei Moharan, everybody says that the world was created for one reason alone, that you should know Hashem. To know Hashem doesn't mean I know that LeBron James had a triple-double last night. That's not called knowing, according to the Torah. To know what your friend did behind closed doors yesterday through a little text that you heard in secret, that's not called knowing according to the Torah. Where do we see knowing in the Torah? That Adam knew Chava, that they had sexual intimacy, that they became one, that two complete, disparate, opposite forms of reality came together and became one unified whole. To know something is to become one with it, says the Torah. And this is something that we spoke about in the past, which is also very deep and worth contemplating. If you think about something, you're knowing it. You're becoming one with it. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says it's very important that you have machshavot tovot, good thoughts. Because it's not just that you're thinking thoughts and we just think, okay, we think. What do you mean? We always think. It is what it is. He says, no, think about what you're going to think about. It matters. Because if you think about negative thoughts, you're not just having something which has no negative recourse. If you're thinking a negative thought, it means you're becoming one with that negative thought. You're uniting with it. You're becoming one with it. You're having a union with it. And it's going to give birth to children. Just as a practical example, let's say, for instance, I think today, I'm a loser. I suck. I'm the worst. Look at this. I've been teaching for years, and I have less students than I ever have. I'm a loser. Jabroni, they used to say. Or actually, in wrestling, I don't know if anybody actually said that, but I'm a loser. That's what I think. Now, what happens as a result of that?
Stop trying.
Why? It's just a thought. Who cares? I'll just let it pass by and keep going with my life. It becomes my space. Very good. What you think becomes the space you live in. You unite with that thought. You become one with that thought, and you give birth to that reality. I think I'm a loser. I'm now becoming one with it by thinking about it, by ruminating on it, by cogitating. And now as a result of that, I become what I think I am, a loser. Now, I wasn't really a loser to begin with, but I thought that I was, and now I am. So it's very, very important what you think. And the Torah is coming to say that the Jewish people were created, the whole world was created to know Hashem. However, at the same time, we know that nobody knew Hashem like Moshe Rabbeinu. That it said that Moshe knew Hashem face to face. Whereas we never got that same label amongst the Jewish people. Now it's starting to make more sense, though, because if we're saying that to know is to unite, it's to become one with that thing. So what did it mean face to face? What's the difference between face to face and back to back? If Hashem's speaking to Moshe and Moshe never sees Hashem, it's back to back. but he hears all the same information. Who cares? Now, all of a sudden, it's front to front.
He's being present with him.
He's intimate with him.
Yeah.
He's more intimate with Moshe. He's face to face. Okay? And if we understand that knowing Hashem is not some type of divrei Torah I can give, it's not some Gemara you can learn, it's not a halacha that you can run through in your mind, because knowledge is not intellectual only. It's a matter of becoming intimate and one with Hashem. That is to know him. And Moshe knew him the most. So who are we going to figure out how to know Hashem from? The one who does it the best. It's pretty simple, no? Like, for instance, just lahavdil. Remember when I used to watch basketball? So when players got older, they got less athletic. So they had to switch their game up. So let's say, for instance, Kobe Bryant. He's not as athletic as he used to be. So what does he have to do now if he wants to remain relevant? He needs to find a post-up game that instead of me running past everybody because I'm not going to be able to anymore, I need to become very, very, very adept to become a master of facing my back to my player and doing what I want with him from there. That doesn't require as much athleticism, but that's going to require a brand new makeup of understanding. So who do you learn from? Hakeem Olajuwon, the greatest post-up player ever. And everybody since Kobe, whether it was LeBron James or any of the other big men that have come along, they all come and learn from Hakeem. Why? Because they called him Hakeem the Dream. That his move was so unstoppable, they called it the Dream Shake. He did a little shimmy and he put it in. Okay? Who are you going to learn from? Are you going to learn from the white 5'8" Jewish guy with the beard how to do post-up moves? No. You're going to learn from Hakeem the Dream. So who are we going to learn how to get close to Hashem from? Moshe. Because if we understand now, it's not just a matter of me learning the Torah like Moshe learned the Torah. It's not just a matter of me doing the mitzvot. Hashem did it. Moshe did the mitzvot. It's a matter of intimacy. And everybody knows that the more intimate of an experience somebody has, the less possible it is to convey except through very special wisdom and care. And Moshe had the most intimate experience with Hashem. So for this reason, it's both. Hashem is saving us. We're here to know Hashem. But how does Hashem save us? We need to learn how to let Hashem save us. Moshe teaches us how to let Hashem save us. Because up until Moshe, we don't know how to. But we have a problem. What's the problem? If you guys look at your Haggadah, whether you're Sephardic, or you're Ashkenazi, or you're Breslov, or you're Chabad, or you're Sephar Ashkenaz like me, what's going to happen? You're going to look in the Haggadah, you're going to notice something very interesting. In the Torah, from the beginning until the end of the Torah, you see one name over and over again. Hashem said to Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, save the Jewish people. Moshe is taking them out. Every story has to do with Moshe, except for one parsha that we have to explain how it could be that this whole parsha doesn't have Moshe's name. And they have to explain it really is talking about Moshe the whole time. The whole Torah is about Moshe. And yet when the Haggadah comes, every year, when we're talking about how we were redeemed from Mitzrayim, which we know according to Chazal, according to the Hasidic masters, according to the Kabbalists, leaving Mitzrayim is not a one-time experience from the past. It is a daily process of leaving suffering behind. Every single time you make an attempt to move beyond emotional suffering, psychological slavery, spiritual constriction, physical health illness, and you move into a state of greater wholeness, happiness, peace, truth, closeness to Hashem, you are leaving Mitzrayim. In fact, it's taught by the very, very big masters of spirituality that the leaving Mitzrayim was only a part of it. But in truth, Rav Kook says that when we left Mitzrayim, that was only the beginning of our leaving. Like it said there, that he took us out with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Rav Kook says, why do you need both? Just use one. So Rav Kook says, because there's two things going on. In the moment, Hashem took us out with a strong arm, strong hand. He mamish just shook us out like a warrior. And on the other hand, we didn't really leave Mitzrayim yet because it was still inside of us. Because you can leave the hood and you can leave your traumas behind. But that doesn't mean your traumas have left you. You can leave your abuser behind, but it doesn't mean that the abuse has left you. He took us out of the abuser. He took us out of the one who traumatized us. But we have to leave the trauma behind. That's the outstretched arm. Rav Kook says, when does that end? When Mashiach comes. That every day since we left Mitzrayim was the beginning of and going through the outstretched arm. How many times do you see Moshe's name mentioned in that Haggadah? Zero. Is that interesting? That every year for thousands of years, we've been talking about and remembering how we left our slavery behind. Anybody with two eyes and a little bit of a brain in between their ears knows that the entire primary focus, reason that we left Mitzrayim was because of a person named Moshe Rabbeinu. And if not for him, we're not getting out of Egypt. So why is he not mentioned once? The Vilna Gaon says something amazing. He says, if you look in the beginning of the Haggadah, you're going to see the very first step is Kadesh, the Pesach Kiddush. This is how we inaugurate the entire Geuladik, the redemption that we're trying to replay, that we're trying to re-experience, of leaving trauma, of leaving abuse, of leaving brokenness, of leaving the shattered remnants of our lives, and to experience a healing from everything we've been through. We start with Kadesh. What's the Gematria of Kadesh? The Vilna Gaon says 404. The same Gematria as Dat. Dat means faith, spirituality, religion. If you go to the last step of the Haggadah, the Vilna Gaon says, what's the last step? Nirtze. Nirtze means acceptance. What's the Gematria of Nirtze? 345. The same Gematria as Moshe. The Vilna Gaon says, even though Moshe's name does not appear once in the whole Haggadah, you see that from the beginning until the end is the faith of Moshe and the guidance of Moshe that's allowing us to leave. All of this is from the beginning until the end of the Haggadah. It's hinted to, but it's not revealed. Why is it not revealed though? Why don't you just say it? It's interesting, we see the Vilna Gaon sees all the hints and he shows how he really is there the whole time, but why doesn't it just say it? So I have a chidush, so that Hashem, it's true, because his whole entire way in which he saved us is to get us to want to be like nothing. Moshe's whole entire essence was that he wasn't there. Despite the fact that Moshe was the most talented, despite the fact that he was the most gifted leader to ever exist, the most gifted teacher to ever live, he didn't think anything of himself. That when people said of him, he was a nav me'od, including the fact that he had to write it, he didn't feel anything. Why? Because Hashem just gave this to him. So what? Who cares? Imagine if you had two cans. One of them has Coke. The other one is an empty can. I take that Coke can and I put it in the empty can. Now there's Coke in that can. Oh my gosh, you have Coke in your can? That's amazing. He's like, yeah, but I got it from the Coke can. This is how Moshe felt. In fact, I heard Rav Yitzhak Ginsburg say, and I don't know where the source was, but he says everything and it's always sourced, that the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu means that despite the fact that he was for sure the greatest person who ever lived, at the same time, he felt in his heart that if anybody would have had the same role as him in history, they would have done a better job than him. If anybody had the same tools, the same resources, the same experiences, they would have been a better leader, a better redeemer, a better teacher. This is what it says. But his whole entire essence was to show us how to unite, to become one with Hashem. And how did Moshe teach us how to do that? Bitul. And not only did he teach us bitul, how to nullify our egos, because this is the key to getting close to Hashem, because as long as you're there, you don't have space for something else. As long as your cup is full, you can't refill it. If you're at the movie theaters, I don't even know if people go to the movies anymore, but you had those big, huge, gigantic Coca-Colas. Yeah, you were high from the amount of caffeine that was in there. And the popcorn, oh my gosh, and that butter, ooh, if that Coke can was full and you went to go fill it with Sprite, what would happen? There's no room. Yes, diarrhea, exactly. Comes Moshe Rabbeinu to be the Pepto-Bismol to our diarrhea. That he came and he said, guys, do you know why you're struggling to connect to Hashem? Because of you, because you're there. Move out of the way and become a vessel for receiving the light of godliness. Yes. The whole entire Ikar of Moshe Rabbeinu was to teach us bitul, and not just to teach it to us, but like Rabbi Nachman, it's mashma, it's hinted to in all of his teachings, that the Chiddush of Mashiach, Rav Ginsburg speaks about this as well, is not just that he's going to teach us bitul. He's not just going to teach us how to nullify our egos to receive something greater than ourselves, but that we're going to want it. That we're going to be excited to do it. That we're going to be in a state of we can't wait to nullify our egos so that we can experience the endless light of Hashem. This is Moshe. This is the Mashiach. Okay. Now, Chazal teach in numerous places that the final Geula is going to mirror and parallel exactly the first redemption from Mitzrayim. That the reason that it happened, just like we said, why do we learn about Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov? Like the Ramban says famously, because it's a portend. It is a siman. It is a sign for the future for the children. Meaning that whatever happened to the parents is going to happen to the children. Why do we learn about the Geula from Mitzrayim if we're going to be in exile for thousands of years more? To show how we left there is how we're going to leave now. It's a blueprint. How do we get out of jail? You're going to go jail, you're going to go home. Are you leaving Mitzrayim or are you building a home there? So if we know that the final Geula has to mirror the first one, and we know that the first one couldn't have happened without Moshe Rabbeinu, teaching us how to know Hashem through bitul, through nullifying our ego and wanting to and enjoying the process and growing higher and higher, closer and closer to the infinite spark of godliness, which is placed in every single person by nullifying the external aspects of ourselves willingly, happily. So too, in the end, there also has to be a leader who does the same thing. What do they call him? Not Moshe, but Mashiach. Mashiach. And the Zohar says that what was will be, like Shlomo Melech says. And what is it referring to? What's the secret, the sod? What's the razin? What's the secrets of that pasuk? That is speaking about Moshe. That just like he was the first redeemer, he will be the final redeemer as well. Just like he was Moshe then, he's going to be Mashiach in the future. Okay, great. So if that is the case, now I want to ask you a question. Did anybody leave Mitzrayim if Moshe was not their teacher? Did any group of Jewish people leave Mitzrayim, leave slavery, leave exile behind, and experience peace, truth, redemption, freedom, except through the hands, through the guidance of Moshe or his student, who never left his tent, Yoshua ben Nun? No, you didn't leave Mitzrayim. So if that's the case, what do you guys feel like is the most important thing that we can all do? Find Moshe. Very good. Seems obvious. We should find Moshe. It seems so obvious, actually, that how have we not done it yet? We should all just get together. We see that the nations of the world do it for much less important reasons. Why don't all the Jews come together all across the world and talk about the different prospects? Oh, this guy's really, really Bucky here. He's really talented here. This one's an amazing leader. This one has accomplished this. And let's figure out who Moshe is, because it's clear that there's a Moshe in every generation. So let's just figure out who it is and let's get out of here. Because it seems to be that this is the only deterrent to us leaving, that we don't know who it is. Not yet. We're going to get there. We're going to have questions. I'm building something up for you. Okay. We often think and we often experience, I just need someone who knows more than me. Right? When I go to a teacher, I just need someone who knows more halakha than me. I just need someone who knows more Gemara than me. I need someone who knows how to deal with life situations a little bit better than I do. It's more experience. Rabbi Nachman says it's not enough. Because the sicker a person is, the greater the doctor that he needs. If a person has a fever, so he can go to the local family doctor and get a Tylenol. Or he could just be smart enough to take it himself and not waste the money to go there. But if he has a very, very unique, very rare disorder that he doesn't know anything about and nobody knows anything about except for that hospital in Minnesota that's the best hospital in the country. So if he wants to get healing, he needs to go there because it's a very great disease. Rabbi Nachman says, what's the greatest illness in the world? That's very good. Not knowing you're sick. That's true. But what is the not knowing that you're sick? What is the illness that Rabbi Nachman's referring to? Despair. Very good. Distance from Hashem. The Rabbi Nachman equated illness not with physical malady, but with distance from Hashem. That to the degree that a person was distant, that Hashem was hidden from him, that he didn't feel him, that he didn't experience him, that he wasn't besimcha, that he wasn't happy with his connection to Hashem, that he wasn't happy being Jewish, that he didn't feel life force, that he didn't feel that he was experiencing great, tremendous chiyut and life force and joy and revelations of godliness. To that degree, he's called sick, he's called ill. And Rabbi Nachman says, the more that you are not having those things, then you're more chole. And for that, you need a greater doctor. Now, it's clear from Chazal that in the final generation, we will be the most distant from Hashem that ever existed. Like Hashem told us, that it'll be hidden within the hidden. I will be hidden twice over. It's going to be a double concealment. Not only will you not see me, but you won't even realize that your problems are because you don't see me. You're going to think it's because of people, places, and things. A concealment within a concealment. So for that, you need the greatest doctor in the world. So we really need Moshe. And that's why it's not good enough to find any rabbi, because we need to get out. We need to cover a very, very long distance.
Rabbi Nachman.
Okay, you can just mute yourselves for a second. You guys are all coming to the punchline of Nachman at the end. Just 1 second.
Come on.
Okay. Whoever knows how to mute this guy, that would be the best. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why we all can't know who Moshe is because Rabbi Nachman says that if everybody knew who he was, then you would have no bechira. Your free will would be taken from you. Because just like you have to choose Hashem, so too you have to aseh lecha rav. You need to choose yourself a Rebbe. And if you didn't have to choose because you knew who it was, then there's no reason Rabbi Nachman says that you should exist, because you're here for free choice. Because if you have this great Rebbe and he has all the answers and he can take you out of everything, so then where's the challenge in life anymore? So the only real challenge is finding and choosing your tzaddik, your Rebbe. Now I want to tell you something amazing. Who cares, let's say, if it is an amazing, incredible tzaddik that we never saw anything like him, or just the greatest local tzaddik near you? This person's greater than anybody you ever saw. He's more wise. He's seemingly more connected to spirituality. He for sure looks very religious, much more than me. So who cares if it's that guy or that guy? I am still in my, sweatsuit coming out of my bed at 10 o'clock at night. So for sure, this guy is going to bring me very, very far, wherever I am. So Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan, Torah Chaf Chet, that there's a pasuk in the beginning of the Torah. Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, Hashem created all the spiritual universes in the physical world. And the Zohar says there that all Torah in the world, all revelation of godliness in the world, all light in the world comes from the first four letters of the Torah. Bereishit bara Elokim et. Where is it coming from in those four words? From the Aleph, the one Aleph in each of those words. The one Aleph in Bereshit, the one Aleph in Bara, the one Aleph in Elokim, and the one Aleph in Et. And from those four Alephs, what they call in the Zohar, the four Alfin, you have all of the revelation of godliness that would ever take place from the beginning until the end of creation. Now, Rabbi Nachman says, if a tzaddik is worthy enough, if a person merits it, then the Torah which he's drawing down from above and which he's giving to others is from these four alfin, from the four words in the beginning of creation. And it's for this reason that it can take you out of anything in your life, because Bereishit bara Elokim et is before Shemayim va'aretz. It's before Hashem created the world. That means that it's above whatever is going on down here. So if you're suffering chas v'shalom from depression, so the Torah that comes from this place is before depression was created. It's higher. What if you suffer from financial issues? So the light, the revelation of godliness from those first four words comes from before then. You can't get married. The whole concept of a zivug didn't take place yet. This light came before. It's ancient. But Rabbi Nachman says, if a person does not merit, he is not what Rabbi Nachman calls a tzaddik emet. He's not a true tzaddik. He's a tzaddik, but he's not a true tzaddik. Then Rabbi Nachman says a very big chidush. Then all the Torah that he draws down comes from those four Alephs, but after they have fallen. Nefula. The same Alephs, the same place where Torah is drawn down from, but in the fallen version. Who cares? Who cares? Because Rabbi Nachman says like this. What's the whole difference? Because the real four Alephs, the real Torah, brings you close to Hashem. The more you learn it, the closer you get. The more you learn it, the closer you get. Because it's coming from the true place of revelation. What happens if you're receiving Torah from the four fallen Alephs? Then automatically, Rabbi Nachman says, as time goes on, even though it might not be apparent to you immediately, you will actually become more and more and more distant from Hashem. But the issue is, you won't know. Because obviously there's a reason why you're learning by him. You think you're getting closer. So what is this class meant to shed light on? I want to give a few telltale signs. How do I know who to learn from? Because it sounds based on what we taught in this class, it might be the most important decision you ever make in your life. Actually, according to a source much wiser than me, Rabbi Nachman, he says it is the most important thing you will ever do in your life. Choose your tzaddik, choose your Rebbe, and run after him. Run after his wisdom and live with it. And now let's say an addition. You have the tzaddik. You figured out who it is for you. There's someone you resonate with. When you hear his Torah, your heart lights up. You feel hope. You feel faith. You feel excited. You feel like you want to grow. You really, really feel close to Hashem. But he's not alive anymore. So what can I do? Connect to his teachings. Now, how do you connect to his teachings? The same way you connect to Hashem's teachings. How do you connect to Hashem's teachings? Through Moshe. How do you connect to Moshe's teachings? Through Yeshua. There's something called a mashpia. That is, there's a person who's drawing from that tzaddik, and he's giving you over that person's teachings. So let's say, for instance, not that you guys know anything about this, Bezrat Hashem you do. Let's say you have decided for you, this real tzaddik that you feel very close to Hashem from. His name is Nachman, but he's not alive anymore. So who should I learn from? I got a phone call this past weekend. The reason why I'm talking about this is because the past few weekends, I've actually had very disturbing news from people in the community. It's not the first time. It's actually many times over that I see the damage and the result of people who are learning either from mashpiyas, those people who claim to be students of Rabbi Nachman. They look the part, they sound the part, they have really long payot, they have really nice beards. They appear to be very, very, very with it. And on the other hand, let's say not a mashpiyah, just a Rebbe. But that Rebbe is not bringing you close to Hashem. He's creating tremendous distance. To the extent that without saying who this person is or who these people are, that there is a person in the community who right now, he is very, very, very not well, and not physically, but in other ways. And he spent a lot of time learning from a certain rabbi who's talking to him about hell all the time. And now as a result of that, he thinks he's going there. And because he thinks he's going there, he's very sick. But hell's in the Torah, Gehennem's in the Torah, who cares? You learned it. It's there. It doesn't matter. Is it from the real Alephs or it's from the fallen Alephs? I know another person. They're trying to decide if they want to be together with somebody else. And the other person is saying, my rabbi is this person. He's a mashpia of Rabbi Nachman. This is my Rav. Does he have smicha? Who knows? Does he have very long payot? Definitely. Is the same person also saying things which directly contradict many of the teachings of Rabbi Nachman? For sure. Do the students know? No. Does he have a lot of them? Yes. Now, if it wasn't coming to my table all the time and I didn't see the damage that was taking place as a result, so I wouldn't talk about it. But if I'm in a position that Hashem is giving me to try and at least say to whoever is going to listen, what I believe is truly important, there's nothing more important than to choose your Rebbe and to choose wisely. Because that person you will be drawing all of your mental noise from, all of your emotional compass from, all of your actions from. And it can go one of two ways. One of them is beautiful. One of them is majestic. One of them is a hero story that can take you literally from gangs, clubs, dangerous sexual activity, divorce, broken families, to mamish being the tzaddik ador, to being the tzaddik of the generation. Or you could be in that same situation and you stay there and you're trapped because you can't get out, because you think that spirituality is whatever it is that you learn from the people that you're learning. So I want to give 3 ways that you can know. You ready? Think about these ways. Think about how you feel about these things. And if you know anybody else as well, you don't need to go around telling everybody not to learn from these people. Don't learn this, don't learn that. I don't want you creating machloket because of what I'm saying. I just want that if the opportunity comes out and it comes up in a conversation, that you should be able to speak in words that that person could understand about why they should choose who they choose, how they should learn, or maybe you yourself, that you're not sure yet. Okay. First way, which is based on what we've spoken about so far. Does he unite or he fights? Is he uniting his students? Is he uniting the Jewish people? Is he uniting the person himself, that within himself he's feeling more peace? Or is he causing that person himself has more distress within himself? That within his family, there's less peace in the home. That within his group of friends or within his community, he is actually, in his attempt to be religious, he's making other people feel bad or admonishing them or pushing them away, squeezing them out. because they're not the way they should be? Or is he drawing those very same people closer? If the answer is the first one, then you have one check. If he's making you feel compelled that when you're in shul, you should scream to the person that if he speaks in the middle of davening, that he is going to go to Gehenna. So that is problematic. That's a difficulty. Because do you know what you're doing? Do you know who you're talking to? You know, the Or Chaim says, why is it that the Torah demands that if a Jewish person is sick, he's in a case of fatality, there's a chance, even a little bit of a chance, you must break Shabbat to save his life. The Or Chaim says, what do you learn from this? That a Jew is holier than Shabbat. That every single Jewish person, every Jewish man, every Jewish woman, every Jewish girl and boy has higher levels of godliness, has higher Kedusha than Shabbat. Shabbat is the thing which has kept us close to Hashem forever, the one that protects us. That every week since we were in Mitzrayim, we have been keeping Shabbat, even though people have lived and have passed on. And yet, when it comes to Shabbat or a Jew, no matter what Jew, it will be an avera, it will be a sin. If you see that he might die and you'd rather keep Shabbat instead of keeping the Jew. So when you make a disparaging mark to another Jew, and as a result of that, you push him away from his dad at all, you don't know what type of damage that you're doing. And you don't know how Hashem really feels about that. Because in the end, it's not that person's fault what happens. It's not his responsibility. It's the one who caused it. Do you know that it says that a person, that his student goes into exile, according to the Torah? His student, he is a student, he learns by him. Let's say he learns by him all year. He's his Talmud. He has to go into exile. He has to leave and go into a place that nobody can see him. His whole life is pretty much over for a period of time. You know that his rabbi has to go down with him? Even though he didn't do anything. Just by virtue of the fact that his student went. Why? Because the rabbi is responsible. That even if he didn't do it, he's still responsible. Rav Natan says in Torah Natan, what's the essence of holiness, Kedusha? We think that holiness means, there's some type of spirits in the air, and it's very, very holy and very high. What does that even mean? What does it mean if something is holy? It's Kodesh. Rav Natan says, Achdut. Does it unite? The holier something is, the more oneness you will see. That's what Kedusha is. If it says there's a lot of Kedusha in the shul, it's not because there's books. It's because there's unity amongst the brothers who are praying there, the sisters who are praying there. It's the Achdut, it's the unity. So if you feel that that person is drawing you closer to Hashem, is drawing you closer to his Torah and drawing you closer to Jewish people, no matter what their background, no matter what their experiences, no matter what their actions or knowledge or lack of knowledge, that means that your teacher's holy. And that's a check. But if, on the other hand, he pushes you away from yourself, from everyone else and Hashem along the way, it's not a check. And it's a problem. Okay, everybody with me on the first step? And by the way, just as a point of reference, why these three things? Why Hashem? Why the Torah? Why the Jewish people? The Zohar says that Kutsha Brichu, Deraita, Klal Yisrael, Shechinte, Chad, it's all one. Because the Baal Shem Tov says, do you know why you need to love every Jew like yourself? Because that is the mitzvah to love Hashem. And any deficit you have in loving other Jews is really a deficit in loving Hashem. Because Jews are only a revelation and expression of Hashem himself. If you take all of the Jewish people, you put them together, that is the whole entire collective revelation of godliness that's in the world. So if you don't love another Jew, you actually don't love Hashem. Now this is very connected to Pesach. Why? What does the Torah say you should do? Take all four sons. Who are they? You have the Chacham, you have the wise one, right? He's religious, he's dati, he knows what's going on. You have the Rasha. The one who we were just saying before, we would push him away. No, he's doing horrible things. He's bringing people further away. Sit him right next to you. You have the Tam, you have the simple one. Very, very simple. He doesn't ask questions. You tell him what to do, he does it. Nice, simple Jew. And then you have She'enu Yodea. He doesn't know how to ask. You put them all at one table and you tell him the whole Haggadah. You tell him that we left Mitzrayim. Why? Why do we need that? Because there is no Geula if every type of Jew is not there. Rabbi Nachman even shows from the Gemara, which says that it's not a tzibur unless you have every type of Jew there. Rabbi Nachman says, what's the secret of that? That tzibur is Roshei Tevot, Tzadikim, Beinonim, and Rashayim. That's a tzibur. That if you don't have a person who's disconnected from Hashem, you don't have a person who's lost, you don't have a person who's confused or troubled who's praying with you, you don't have a minyan. You don't have the Rasha sitting at your Pesach table, it's lacking. Comes Rabbi Nachman to say, how do you get all those four together? So he says like this, something very beautiful. Rabbi Nachman says the entire table represents and is a mashal for Avram Avinu's family. That Abraham is the Magid. He's the one who tells over the Pesach story. The wise son is Yitzchak. The Rasha is none other than Esav HaRasha, his grandson, who they literally call all the time the Rasha. He is called the Rasha, Esav. He's at the table also. Who's next to him? The one who's Tam. Who do they call Tam in the Torah? Ish Tam, Yaakov. And the one who doesn't know how to ask, Ishmael. Now he says like this. Avram Avinu instituted Shachrit. That's what the sages said. Rabbi Nachman explains that these people at your table are all the elements of real prayer, of real redemption, of real geula. That is, that you have the Chacham, the Rasha, the Tam, the Eino Le'odea, doesn't know how to ask. What's the Roshei Tevo? What's the first letters of these four people? It spells Shachrit. Again, you have Chacham. It starts with a Chet. You have Rasha. You have Rasha. It starts with a Reish. You have Tam. It starts with a Tuf. You have She'eno Yodea. Shin, Yud. Take all the letters, all five letters, it spells Shachrit. Who instituted it? Abraham. How do you get all of those types of Jews together? Only through Avraham Avinu. Who's Avraham Avinu? The Or Chaim HaKadosh says, the Tzaddik Yisod Olam, whoever that is. That's how you get all four people together. So if you want to know, am I by the real one? Look at his students. What type of students does he have? Does he have all four sitting at his table? Because to be able to unite and to bring them all together, you have to be very, very holy. Because holiness does not mean that you learn a lot of Torah. Holiness does not mean that you don't move when you pray. Holiness doesn't mean that you wear black and white or that you have a beard or a hat. Holiness means that you can unite. The more you can unite, the holier you are. One. Number two, do you feel light or heavy when you hear him speak? Do you feel light or heavy when you hear his teachings? What do I mean by that? Rabbi Nachman told his students when they first came by him, and it was their first experience of Rabbi Nachman. He's sitting in Breslov by his students, and the Rebbe says to them, when you leave here and you go back to your families after this experience, and they ask you, what are you learning there? What are you learning in Breslov? What are you learning by this Rebbe Nachman? He says, tell them Ruach. Ruach. What does ruach mean? Air. It's one of the levels of the soul. Very good. Ruach means spirit. Ruach means energy. Ruach means to breathe. The Rabbi Nachman was saying, tell them you learned how to breathe. Why? Who cares? That's such a great Maila. What did you do there? Did you learn all of Shas? No. Did you learn the Shulchan Aruch Code? No. I learned how to breathe. Wondrous. I could have shown you. However, obviously breathing is a much deeper thing than that, because we see that when Moshe came down to the Jewish people and said, I'm taking you out of slavery. You're not going to be a slave anymore. You're not going to suffer anymore. It said they couldn't hear him because they had kotzer ruach. They couldn't breathe. When a person can't breathe, then he can't listen. He can't hear. So when you listen to the teachings, do you feel happier after? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel less pressure on your shoulders? Do you feel a weight lifted off of you? Do you feel excited? Do you feel joyful? That's a sign that you're by a real tzaddik or a real mashpia of the tzaddik. But if when you listen to his teachings, you feel more anxious, you feel more confused, you feel more worried, you feel more concerned, you feel heavier than when you started, that's a concern. Because the tzaddik teaches ruach. He teaches you how to be easy, how to be silly, how to breathe, how to be happy. That despite we're going through a lifetime worth of suffering and challenges, that Rabbi Nachman says, Olam Haba, for sure we believe in it. Olam Hazeh, I'm not sure, because all I see is Gehenna. All I see is hell. How do you go through that and actually enjoy it? So you're going to have to learn how to breathe. You're going to have to learn how to take it easy. You're going to have to learn how to want to grow, but not become sad by your limitations. Okay? So 2, is he making you feel light or heavy? If he unites and he makes you feel light, you're 2 for 2. What's the third one? The last one? He doesn't leave his master's tent. It says about Yoshua ben Nun, when he replaced Moshe Rabbeinu, that what allowed him to be the leader? If Moshe is the one who gave us the Torah, we need his Torah even after he dies. So who's going to be the mashpia? Who can give me Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah? Pure, clean, authentic, at its source. Only Yoshua ben Nun. Was he the smartest person who ever lived? The Midrash says no. Was he the most handsome? The Midrash says no. Was he the most talented? The Midrash says no. Was he exceptional in any area? The Midrash says no. He was not exceptional in any area of his life. There was only one area he was exceptional in. His ability not to leave his master's tent. That because he was so faithful to Moshe, that he never left his side, which doesn't just mean that he never physically left him, which he didn't in his lifetime. But it means that the student of the Rebbe, the student of the tzaddik, the mashpia who's trying to give over his Torah, he never leaves his Rebbe's tent. Meaning that whatever the Rebbe says, he either does or he tries to do to the best of his ability. Whatever the Rebbe teaches, he's constantly learning. Whatever the Rebbe gives as advice, he's constantly trying to put into his life. But if you see that the teacher or the mashpia who's giving you over teachings is not a faithful shepherd, not in the sense that he's not a good leader or he's not charismatic or he doesn't know how to speak or he's not religious or he doesn't look the part, but does he never leave his Rebbe's tent? Is he constantly trying to do whatever his Rebbe says or actually accomplishing it? If he's not doing one or the other, it's a difficulty. Why? I'll give you an example. Practical example. Anybody knows, and this is the end of the lesson, anybody knows, Rabbi Nachman, knows that he has many types of students. You have people like Rav Yaakov Meir Shechter, who even in the Litvak Ashkenazi traditional yeshivish learning world, he's considered the biggest Talmid Chacham of the entire generation. He lives in Eretz Yisrael. He is a diehard, hardcore Breslov chassid. So you have that. Then you have, say, Rav Arush, that he's going all around the world. He's spreading Amunah. And he for sure is given Amunah to many, many, many people around the world. You have other people that they are very, very good motivational speakers. They excel by taking Rabbi Nachman's teachings and giving over the highest level of motivation that's drawn down from the teachings of the tzaddik. Also, good. But there's also students of Rabbi Nachman that they take a lot of drugs. They're smoking weed, they're blazing every day, or they're drinking with their boys. And then they go learn Likutei Moharan. And then they learn Rabbi Nachman's Torah. Why? Because they would tell you, Rabbi Nachman says the ikar is besimcha. If the ikar is to be happy, and smoking and blazing makes me happy, and the whole point is to know Hashem, and I feel like I know Hashem more when I'm high, so why not? It's a good question, no? However, what about the other place where Rabbi Nachman says explicitly that he was very, very, very against using any type of artificial external substance to change your mind? So that part we're going to negate. Why? Because the other place where he says that you should be happy. What about the place where he says that the key to being happy like that is that you nullify your ego completely and that you're going back and forth between praying and learning constantly? That's the simcha he's speaking about? No, but besimcha. Besimcha. So in this case, you're going to have people who are giving over Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and you're going to see a lot of those students are high or drunk or both and other things. And they would do a very good job of convincing you that this is what the Rebbe wants. That's not true. That's not true. Because the real thing that the Rebbe wanted is that you should have ruach, is that you should feel high without needing an external substance to get high. The whole entire essence of Rabbi Nachman's Torah for sure is to get you high. It's clear from Rav Yitzchak Meir Morgenstern, which is a very, very deep thing, which very much relates to us that we're learning the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. That he says that our generation, we're just not strong enough anymore to fight negativity. We can't. It's stronger than us. The only thing that we can do is to find a holy way to get high. He doesn't say it exactly like this, but I'm paraphrasing. Meaning what? You're going to need ruchniut. You're going to need spirituality. You're going to need Torah that gets you high without having to do any drugs. What does that sound like? Chassidus. Because there's no other way out. So for you to be able to make sure that you get the right information, that you learn how to get high without getting high, that you don't have to spend any money for it, you just accrue money as a result. You don't ruin your relationships at home as a result, you actually grow your relationships at home. And even, by the way, just on the side that Rabbi Nachman never spoke about it, even though he did. And somebody comes up to me like they did and said, really, who cares? We have so many problems going on right now. So many difficulties, so many trials, so many tribulations. A guy wants to smoke a blunt. Who cares? It's not like I grew up religious. It's not like I didn't wear a tie-dye shirt my entire middle school experience. It's not like I wasn't the first one to smoke weed in my whole entire community. And I won't say more than that. I actually didn't say anything. Said not that. I know what it is. But you're missing the entire gift of Rabbi Nachman. You could feel like that without getting high. You missed the whole boat. Okay, so you feel good, you got high, and you listen to it, and now your mind is just blowing out of your body. But then when you're not high, then what? Your life sucks. Your relationships are terrible. your life is broken. But if I can actually be in this world down here while I'm living in another place up here, and I don't have to pay for it, it's free, and I can give it over to others, and it's real, it's genuine, it's authentic. That sounds like redemption, no? Sounds like Geula. That's Ruach. This is what Rabbi Nachman came to give us. So I give everybody a very, very, very strong, as we're going into Pesach, to think about yourself as you're either saying the story over of the Haggadah or you're listening. Do I have somebody like that in my life? Do I have a Rebbe like that? Do I have a tzaddik like that? Either who's alive or he's not alive, and I'm learning from one of his students or learning from a student of his student. Does he fit these three criteria? Does he unite instead of fight? Does he make me feel light instead of making me feel heavy? Is he faithful? Does he do to the best of his ability and give over authentically, genuinely what was given to him from his Rebbe? Or does he give you his own version of it based on what he thinks is going on in the world? If you have the first three, Rabbi Nachman says you have found the most important thing you will ever find in your life, and you should spend the rest of your life drinking those waters and using it and utilizing it to get closer and closer to Hashem, which automatically means I have more peace within myself, which automatically means there's more peace within my family and my home, and more peace within my community. Why? Because holiness unites. Kedusha unites. And if you want to know what's the proof that you have the greatest amount of holiness in the teachings that we learn together, that we have the merit, the schut to learn as a brotherhood, as a sisterhood together, as a group, where is the place in which you have every and no more different types of people in one place, where you have people who are former heroin addicts with tattoos all over their body, who were formerly imprisoned, that you have rabbis there who have been learning their entire life since they were born as Hasidim, and they don't even know what social media is, that you have another person that he's a Baal Tshuva, and now he's learning in Kollel, and you have another person that he's religious, and he has a business, and he learns barely, and you have another person, he doesn't even know what Hashem is, he's never heard of it. You have another person, he's not even Jewish, and every single one of them is coming together to elevate and to move closer to Hashem, and to get closer to spirituality, and to get closer to real meaning in life and purpose. Uman Rosh Hashanah. How does the Rebbe do it? Because he was really, really holy. And because he was so holy, he's able to unite the whole world. And it's in the schut of that connection that we have to the tzaddik that can unite everybody. Yosef, that the name Yosef means to gather all the souls. It's through Yosef that we have Mashiach ben David, that we have the Geula. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all have it soon in our days. Everybody have an amazing, amazing night, an amazing week. Any questions from tonight? The lesson's over. If you want to leave, I'm not offended. Don't worry. I know you guys are very, very proper, but you don't have to be. I'm used to it. Okay. Go ahead. You were very patient the whole class.
Oh, no, you answered my question. The question was, how do you trust someone? Because I'm also struggling with trusting people, because it's a sense of like when you go and look for mashpia,
Yeah.
right? And I've had like multiple mashpias in the spot, and just to like taste around what, I have like a really hippie one, I have a really Chabad one, I have a really Breslov one, and I tell them you're the only one, but then I'm like, let me see the advice that you give me. And some of them don't give me advice and just let me be. Some of them like I wear leggings instead of stockings under my skirts, and they're like, if you want to, like, and I'm just like, are you trying to change me or are you trying to work with me? Like, I don't, so how do I understand and see, or like, how do I know if I feel uncomfortable through my ego, or I feel uncomfortable because I feel uncomfortable with it?
That's a great question. Question is, I have seen many mashpiyas, I've seen many people who I have learned from, and I've gotten something from all of them. And she's mentioning whether it's Chabad or it's Breslov or some other Kiruv, right? So everybody has seen a lot of different teachers, a lot of different mashpiyas. How do I know which ones I'm really connecting to and which ones maybe even I'm feeling distance from, not because they're giving me the wrong advice, but because of my own ego, X, Y, and Z. Good. So the answer to this is the answer that Rabbi Nachman gives for every self-doubt that you have. That the only way to get the answer to questions like that is through a meditation that's secluded, that's called Hibodedut. That if you take a time during the day that you're completely secluded from society, from social media, from friends, from family, and you literally say the words out loud, Hashem, which one of these people really makes me feel the closest to you, that I have the best chance to grow closer to you, that's really allowing me and pushing me to develop and to believe in myself? An answer is going to pop up in your heart. Because if you do it within the realm of Hibodedut, and you breathe first, and you become calm first, and you thank Hashem first, and you become besimcha first, now that you're happy, you're going to be able to think clearly. And when you think clearly, you can choose the right one. And by the way, how often should you be praying to make sure you have the right one? Rav Natan used to pray every single day in his Hibodedut because Rabbi Nachman told him to, even though he was learning by Rabbi Nachman. Because the main choice that you have every day is which Rebbe you choose that day.
That day?
It should always hopefully be the same Rebbe, but you have to choose him every day. We think that we choose our rabbi, that's it. He's my rabbi forever. Everything in your life that you want to grow from, that you want to experience benefit from, you need to continuously choose them every day, every moment. So too, just like your life. When I wake up during the day, the only way that you're going to live that day is if you choose to. So too, your Rebbe, even if he's already set in stone, you know he's mamish, the greatest tzaddik that you've ever seen in your life, and that this is the key to me getting close to Hashem. Still, the next day, you're going to have trials and tribulations, obstacles, barriers to you doing the things that they told you to. You have to choose to do them despite the challenges every day. Okay?
I have another question.
Okay, go
About
ahead.
the three things.
Yes.
So I actually know someone that's very dear to me and close to me in my life that is listening to certain rabbis that is actually distancing
I got it. Distancing them.
Yeah, them from their families, from their friends, or from like certain relationships, or even from themselves. Like he's not being present with himself. So like, how do I open up his heart and make sure that the klipa doesn't like?
Okay, great question.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
You know what system that is?
No.
Don't say.
No, he looks like him every day.
Hanan?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you look just like him. Wow, interesting. I love
It looks
him.
like
He's a great guy. Okay. Okay. So first of all, I've spoken to him many times. I tried my best. 1, 2. Like this. There's 2 things here. The question was for anybody who's watching online. What about people that I care about that are near me, that I know that they're engaged in a process that's going contradictory to what we spoke about tonight? So that's a very precarious situation, and it's a very dangerous, vulnerable situation. And now I know, so I want to do something about it. Okay. The first thing that you could possibly do is to Mekayim, to achieve what we spoke about tonight. Because the only light you can give to another person is the one that you have. I promise you that if you come to some type of resolution within yourself, a peace within yourself, a connection to Hashem that's real, that's authentic, that's genuine, you're not pulling at straws, you didn't hear something one time, but you're living with it for a period of time, everybody around you will feel your aura. They're going to feel your light. And when they go through difficulties, which they will, that they can't overcome, which will happen because they're not learning from the right source, and they're going to see that you're good, they're going to have to ask you. And that's a good time to tell them. Secondly, Rabbi Nachman says, how do we make sure that good leaders, real leaders, are revealed in the world? The only way is that when you get angry in your life, instead of responding to your anger, you act empathetically. Rabbi Nachman says it's a very deep Kabbalistic spiritual mechanism that when you respond to anger with empathy, with compassion instead, right? When you feel the anger, you don't act on it, but before you act, you think, and you actually empathize with the person who caused you to be angry. You breathe, yeah. You actually cause that those leaders who are real leaders, who are hidden because of their humility, have to take the stage and lead us out of exile, Rabbi Nachman says. Because in fact, and this is a very deep thing, the reason why we have so many leaders who are leading not from a place of humility, but from a place of taking the reins from their own ego. So Rabbi Nachman says it's because we ourselves do the same thing every day. So when we respond to that and we rectify that within ourselves, then the leaders will also change in the world.
Wow, because they're mirrors. They're mirrors. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so that's one. There's a question I want to say something. Oh, I just wanted to make another point for anybody who's still listening. This is something that like I always was looking for a source in the Torah for where Rabbi Nachman says that only the great tzaddik, only the great spiritual master is able to go down and to help those people who are suffering the most, who are still stuck in all the klipot, all the darkness. Because if another person who is just as well-meaning, just as well-intentioned tries to do the same, he's going to end up getting sucked into the darkness itself, and he's going to have a negative effect. He's going to be damaged as a result. Okay, so then we have a problem then. So then there's nobody who you can actually connect to then, except for this one person. But Rabbi Nachman says, but if you're a chassid of that person, if you're a real student of that person, and you have hikashru with that person, with that great tzaddik, then you can go down to those places, even though you're not perfected, even though you have maybe many lackings, even though you are not excelling in the areas of Torah, wisdom, and halakha, you're still not mastering any area yet. But if you have hikashru with the tzaddik, then as a result of that, you can actually go down to those same dark places and you won't be harmed. But the question is obvious. How is that possible? Okay, so I have a very strong relationship with this very great rabbi. I'm learning his teaching. So now I'm impervious to damage from any type of social influence. Where is that coming from? So I want to give you a source that I finally found, thank God. In Masechet Chagiga, something unbelievable. Benjamin, you're going to like this. Yes, in Masechet Chagiga, towards the end. I didn't have time to look up the exact daf, but Hashem will find it after. It speaks about a mikveh there. And it says, if you have a mikveh, and we know that, what did Rabbi Nachman say about himself? I'm a mikveh. My teachings are a mikveh. When you come into those teachings, you will come out pure. Close to Hashem. I'm a mikveh. Okay, great. Maybe you're a mikveh, but you're not here anymore. So we have to learn from one of your students now. What if he's not a mikveh like you're a mikveh? Right? So it seems like it would be a problem, no? So the Gemara says something amazing. If you have a mikveh, and you need 40 sayah to be whole. So we'll call that the tzaddik. We'll call that Rabbi Nachman. You have his student who is teaching you his Torah. He's not whole. So it seems like it's going to be problematic. Comes the Gemara to say that if a mikveh doesn't have 40 sayah of water, it's lacking. It could be very lacking. But if it has a clear pipeline to a mikveh that is completely whole with 40 sayah, it's just as valid as that other mikveh. Everybody understand? Again, the mikveh needs a measurement of 40 sayah. That's the volume of water. You need 40 sayah. Okay. That's to make you a whole mikveh, or the tzaddik emet. Now, we're going to be learning the teachings from a student who's not the tzaddik emet, because obviously, then they're the tzaddik emet. Then they're the true tzaddik. Then they're the ones who I need to learn his teachings from. That he's mechadishing, he's bringing new teachings to the world. I'm going to be drawing from him. But if Rabbi Nachman's not here, and you have literally at this point hundreds, and in Chabad you have thousands of people who are giving over their Rebbe's Torah, who there we're going to call the 40 sayah mikveh. So how do we get from them and know for sure it's good? Know for sure it's kosher? And the answer goes back to, does he never leave his tent? Because if he never leaves the Rebbe's tent, then I feel that there's a very strong parallel to the concept of the mikveh. That you have a mikveh, it's not whole. It doesn't have 40 sayah, but it has a little tiny hole connecting that lacking mikveh to the mikveh that's full. But there's a hole there, and it's connected, and it's always connected. Then that mikveh that's not whole, that doesn't have 40 sayah, it's connected, you dumped into a 40 sayah mikveh when you jumped in there. Why? Because of a halachic term that's called hashaka. It means that these two mikvahs are kissing. Because they're kissing, meaning they're exchanging waters, and one of them is always full, so the other one is also considered full, even though it's not. So for a person in our generation that he's not yet on the level of these great tzaddikim, Maybe he's not even close, but he really is genuinely attached to them because he learns their wisdom. He follows their advice. He does the best that he can to makayim it and achieve it in his life. So then as a result of that, he becomes this limited mikveh that doesn't have all the sayah. Not because it's his fault. He's just not there yet. Or he doesn't have the capability, but that's okay. You can still learn by him. Why? Because he's connected to the 40 sayah mikveh. I believe it's a very, very beautiful raya to the concept of having a mashpia who's not the tzaddik and still being able to get pure waters. Okay. Any other last questions before we end here? Just want to check online. Are women allowed in your classes in person? They are on Sunday nights. Just not this upcoming Sunday because Pesach. And we're gonna have because I don't live here. Yeah. Pesach is a hag. There's no Yeah. So we're not gonna be having classes then. Tuesday we're gonna have classes online, Tuesday night. Okay. That's just for men in person. Women can watch at home. That's 9 p.m. And then B'ezrat Hashem we'll see about Thursday night because it's B'dikat Chametz. Hopefully we'll be able to do a class then. We'll see. And then during the day, 10:30 a.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have Likutei Halachot. Chol Hamoed B'ezrat Hashem will have classes.
You have classes every single day?
Almost.
That's phenomenal. This place means that's amazing.
Okay,
Great.
thank God.
Wow,
Thank
light in
God.
the darkness.
Okay, everybody have an amazing day. Have an amazing night. Have a very great week. Thank you.